For those who lived through Katrina, time has been measured by it ever since. There was life before the storm.
Students in Jefferson Parish went back to class today, and this
overseas, Iraq has edged closer to,
and life after. The storm didn't just drown a city, it exposed failures, shattered families, and tested the soul of New Orleans.
Like a bomb completely blew up this side of the building.
It's just been a nightmare. Just holy hell.
What followed were days many try to forget, moments too painful to relive.
I don't want to get caught in the water.
They have a lot of people inside of the attics. They're screaming. We can hear them.
But to see the strength in our recovery, we must remember the struggle to honor the lives forever changed.
Got no water or nothing.
We have thousands. We don't know how many are dead. We're trying to save the living.
We must confront the past.
we have been pushed to the edge by Katrina, and we are still standing.
And to ensure we never repeat the mistakes, we must never forget them. 20 years later, we remember the wind, the water, and the will to rebuild.
A monster Category 3 storm and possibly taking aim at Southeast Louisiana. Hurricane Katrina continues to move west in the Gulf of Mexico. The big question is, where will the storm make landfall? When will it turn north? John Gum is in the Weather Center. Let's get right to this, John. Any new information for us?
No new information just yet, Eric. We're watching some brand new computer model runs that we're keeping track of, which will eventually help us to determine exactly where this storm is going to be headed. Now, I'm going to show you some graphics here. Now, we don't have the computer just ready just yet, but it's going to be coming up. So when you see it back there, take the graphics, and we'll show you the satellite picture from this storm. Actually, we'll start with the hurricane watch. There it is, Morgan City to the mouth of the Pearl River. This includes Lake Pontchartrain and New Orleans. This means basically, hurricane conditions are possible within this watch area in the next 36 hours. Probably going to be a little more than that, but possible within this watch area in the next 36 hours. Now, the storm still out here in the Gulf of Mexico. It's getting better organized this morning, and as we look at the satellite imagery here, you're going to notice the eye feature is again becoming visible. It went through a little eye wall replacement cycle this morning, which actually helped it to weaken a little bit. But usually, once these eye walls get a little more organized, it starts to gain more strength. And like we mentioned, this is a major Category 3 hurricane out here. There's the infrared satellite picture this afternoon, and just a very well-formed hurricane. Conditions well ahead of this storm, closer to us. Very warm water up here, very low shear profiles in the atmosphere. So everything that we're looking at indicates this hurricane has the potential to strengthen even more than it already has, and that's something obviously that concerns us a great deal. There's the latest advisory, 24.5 north, 85 west, 497 miles away from New Orleans. Movement is to the west at 7 miles per hour. The wind's at 115 miles per hour, making it a major Category 3 storm. And the pressure, and you know, this is interesting, the pressure is at 27.76 inches. That is extremely low. Typically, that would support a Category 4 storm, but the winds, according to the hurricane hunters, haven't quite responded to that just yet. But the pressures on this storm very low, and that's another one of the reasons we think that it could intensify even further. And here's one of the computer models that we look at. We're getting new information in constantly, but this is one of the ones that we put a high degree of confidence in. Here's where it's going to be at 8 o'clock tonight. Notice it's going to gain some strength in all likelihood according to this computer model. And again, the hurricane located right there in the center of where you see the circular isobars here. Those are pressure lines, or lines of equal pressure, with inside here being the lowest pressure, outside being the highest pressure. But watch where it goes. There's tomorrow morning. Now, here's one thing that we really need to make certain. Today and tomorrow will be your last days to get ready for any potential hit from this storm. So you've got today, you've got a good part of tomorrow, especially in the morning hours tomorrow. Notice 8 o'clock tomorrow, still most of the weather is well offshore from us, but conditions will begin to deteriorate as we go into tomorrow night. Notice tomorrow night we could be looking at the outside bands of this thing beginning to make an impact in Southeast Louisiana.
And again, we're not trying to frighten people, but this is one that we are, quite frankly, very frightened of.
We're concerned. I mean, we have a lot of concerns with this storm, Eric, and it's if it doesn't hit us directly, it's going to come close enough that we're going to see some very nasty conditions. And by that, I mean, right now, looking at all the information I'm looking at, I think there's at least an 80% probability that we're going to see hurricane force winds in the city of New Orleans with this. And that's if it does fade a little further to the east, perhaps. It's a big storm, Eric. It's getting bigger. You can't just think of it as one center point. You have to look at the entire wind field, the entire storm itself. It's going to have large impacts no matter where it makes landfall.
Anyway, we have Dan Packer in the studio with us from Energy. You guys are getting prepared for this Tropical Storm Cindy, or Hurricane Cindy, whatever it was. When it came in, nobody really thought it was going to do the damage it did. You guys had a 250,000 customers or more out of power. If this thing comes our way, it'll dwarf that unbelievably.
Well, I think there certainly could be a lot of customers out when it does hit, or if it does hit, Eric. The way we're looking at it is we are prepared. We've got in our plan about 4,500 linemen, 7,000 total if you look at the 3,000 tree trimmers that we're going to add to that. We've already rolled our trucks from Arkansas and Texas. They're on their way here now. Of course, there's always a little bit of a problem since this storm also hit down in South Florida.
Right.
So they have 1 million customers out last night, and they're still trying to get their customers back, and there are a lot of people going down there to help. But we think we're ready.
Is there anything that people can do around their homes to make sure that they can keep trees off power lines, or what, or should they just not do anything?
Well, I don't think there's much you can do as far as what the trees might do, only because it's so random with the way Mother Nature works. But those typical things they ought to be doing: flashlights,
yeah.
Making sure they've got batteries for their battery-powered radios. If you anticipate that the lights are going to be out a while, make sure you got a lot of batteries.
Maybe you can stock up some ice and some ice chests, things like that.
Ice. Don't open your refrigerators and freezers unless you absolutely have to. I think for people who are thinking about staying, those are the sort of things they got to be aware of. That, and the fact that this really could have some flooding potential. And we've got to really be very careful about that.
All right, we should mention there are some evacuations in the area. Mandatory evacuation is up in St. Charles Parish, Plaquemines Parish, and beginning at 2 o'clock in Lafourche Parish for areas south of the Lee, Ontario floodgate. Voluntary evacuations are underway in Terrebonne and St. Bernard Parish and down in Grand Isle. Tolls have also been lifted on the Causeway and the Crescent City Connection bridges if you're traveling in those areas. Orleans and Jefferson Parish officials say they are still in a wait-and-see mode. Their decisions could come within the next hour or so or later this afternoon. We are waiting for a news conference from Jefferson Parish and the city of New Orleans and Governor Kathleen Blanco's office, which should be coming up any time now. St. Tammany Parish, state of emergency. No shelters open at this time, but St. Tammany Parish has 5 sandbag stations open if you need some of those. All right, let's go now to Ton Trong at the Yenny Building out in Jefferson Parish. And the governor and some other officials are about to speak there. Ton, what's going on there?
Well, Eric, everybody from parish officials, state senators, and all the officials from the municipalities here in Jefferson Parish are right now waiting for the arrival of Governor Kathleen Blanco to give the public a briefing about perhaps contraflow, evacuations, whether they be mandatory. And right now, what we can tell you, as Lisa, we've had confirmed, is that the Grand Isle area, at least in Jefferson Parish, Grand Isle and Lafitte are under a mandatory evacuation order. That's all we know for Jefferson Parish at this point. Everybody is still awaiting the arrival of Governor Kathleen Blanco just to see what she is going to say about contraflow and what she'll have to offer in terms of mandatory evacuation orders. I can tell you that on the drive here to the Yenny Building, we took Airline Highway. There were plenty of people, I mean, even without the evacuation orders being issued at this point, plenty of people at the gas lines, at the gas pumps, and they are right now filling up their gas tanks, perhaps just as a preparation for the mandatory or the type of evacuation orders that will likely come down at this hour. As soon as we get word of the arrival of Governor Kathleen Blanco, we will update you on that, and we'll bring it live to you here at the press conference at the Yenny Building. For now, reporting live, Ton Trung, Channel 4. Eyewitness News.
And Ton, have you talked to some of the officials there? Because it seems like there is people are taking a more cautious attitude this time than they have in the past with calling for an evacuation or doing anything like that. You know, I guess nobody wants to jump the gun, but this does look like a very serious storm headed our way.
Oh, absolutely. And as you were talking with John Gum at the Weather Center, I mean, some of the officials here have admitted that this weather system and this hurricane system has been a complete surprise for everybody. So in that regard, the window and the turnaround for preparation has been fairly small. So, I mean, right now we're really awaiting what Governor Kathleen Blanco is going to tell us. But, you know, in many terms, people are just surprised, and right now they're just trying to formulate that preparation plan and just to really organize and tell people, nearly 500,000 people, what to do in this situation.
And again, we're telling folks you don't have to wait for the official evacuation. If you have the means to do it and can get out, you might want to go now. As Tom mentioned, on his way out on Airline Drive, traffic was still pretty light, right?
Oh, absolutely, Eric. And the lines itself are just evidence of the type of caution people are feeling with this storm that is right now projected to come our way. We're not trying to paranoid or trying to cause any paranoia or cause any undue caution for people, but people are heeding the word from some of the officials that they've already told us that there are evacuation orders in line in Grand Isle and Lafitte. So that's evidence that right now people are taking this very seriously.
All right, now here in New Orleans, Mayor Ray Nagin has said all morning that he's taking a wait-and-see call for the evacuation. Let's go to Bob Green, who's now at City Hall, for an update on the situation there. Bob?
Well, good afternoon, Eric. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here at City Hall in the mayor's press room awaiting his 1 p.m. Address to the media and to the public, of course, letting them know what he feels and what parish and city officials feel is our status in this storm waiting for Katrina, and also what sort of preparations folks need to take. He spoke with us a little bit earlier. Let's roll a little bit of that sound from his earlier briefing.
New Orleans is definitely in the sights of this hurricane. We are in full motion with our emergency preparedness. Team is in full effect. We are monitoring the storm on a real-time basis. We are prepared to get our special needs shelters. They are being organized and put in place, and we'll have some announcements later on today about that. We're also organizing RTA to make sure that if we have to use shelters of last resort, which because this storm is so potent and most likely will be the Superdome, that we will have pickup points to get senior citizens, children, and families that could not evacuate. My advice to those that can evacuate is to get ready, secure your homes, get your gasoline that you will need, cash, credit cards, board up your homes, and you have some time. I'm not advising an evacuation at this point in time. We are following the state's Contraflow plan, the state's evacuation plan, I should say. The low-lying parishes ordered evacuations at 9 a.m. this morning. It's my understanding that Jefferson is going to do something very similar at noon.
St. Bernard Parish is, like everybody else, under a state of emergency. But at this point, there are no mandatory evacuations. It is only what they say, quote, a strongly recommended evacuation. If that's going to change, it'll happen around 3 o'clock this afternoon, presumably, but at this point it is only a strong recommendation that people do get out of town. We were driving down here from the French Quarter about 90 minutes ago or so. The roads headed out of town were starting to fill up quickly, and every gas station along this road was also backed up with cars around the block trying to fuel up, presumably to get out of town. A few moments ago, we did speak with emergency officials here, and here's what they had to say.
Right now, we're in precautionary and recommended evacuation. We recommend everyone in St. Bernard Parish, if they're going to evacuate now. The earlier they leave, the easier it's going to be for them to get wherever they're going. We don't recommend you go east or west. We recommend that you go north. But if you're going to leave now. Make plans to leave now before it gets dark.
Because we don't want to be an over-alarmist agency here. People need to just realize they need to make a good, sound decision about what's coming, okay? The potential, we still don't know exactly where this is going, but we are still, by all likelihood, going to have some serious effects from this storm wherever it winds up.
Now, one concern that officials here in St. Bernard Parish have, and they say this is a very big concern for them, is the special needs residents here that perhaps don't have the means to get out of town. But already here in St. Bernard Parish, they are going around and picking people up and taking them to a shelter all the way in Alexandria. So you can see how far away they feel they need to be to place these people with special needs to get them out of harm's way.
All right, we're going to go back out to Jefferson Parish now. The governor has arrived, and I believe she is speaking right now. Let's go to Governor Blanco.
A little east, a little westward. No one really knows exactly where it's coming, but I think it's very wise for all of us to be well prepared, and for each individual and each family to know exactly where they're going to go. I believe it's important to stay calm, to make rational, calm preparations, and to also to listen to your parish leaders because they know best. We've already asked that the low-lying areas be evacuated. We just flew over and I looked at the interstate situation, and it is fine until you get into this region where there are so many people living, and then it's slowing down a little bit. Later on this afternoon, we will be preparing and watching this traffic to make sure that we make the call for a contraflow at the right time. Now, I do want to say a few things. I'm urging people to be very patient drivers. You're leaving to protect yourselves and your family. A small accident can cause you a lot of frustration and back up traffic dramatically. A big accident can really injure a lot of people.
I'm urging that everyone prepare yourselves and pre-plan before you hit the roadways. That will save you and us a lot of grief as this traffic continues to increase. If you are involved in a minor crash, and the governor talked about driving safely, if you are involved in a minor crash, and those vehicles can be moved, we urge that you please move those vehicles to the side of the road, out of the traffic, so that other traffic can continue to flow. That would help us. We will get to you as soon as we can. We have also increased our troop strengths. We've brought in additional personnel. We've been coordinating since early in the week with DOTD, with the National Guard, with our neighboring law enforcement partners in Mississippi and Alabama, and also locally, to make sure that we have sufficient law enforcement personnel out to aid in the safe and efficient movement of the traffic. Right now, there are no road closures. We hope to be able to continue to report that. Our website, www.lsp.org, you can find all of your road closure information. You can find the hurricane evacuation guide and much of the information that you will need.
They said that I-10 westbound traffic was moderate. However, they said I-10 eastbound has been shut down between New Orleans and Lafayette. You're not going to be able to travel eastbound on I-10 between New Orleans and Lafayette. But headed westbound to Texas, they said, is moderate traffic. Now, also, we've got smooth traffic. If we could show that shot on the high-rise for a moment. We do have traffic moving smoothly in that area, as you can see, both inbound and outbound. I spoke to one of our commuters that was looking to go towards Florida and said that traffic on Highway 90, actually, if you cross the Wrigley's and you're wanting to go to the coast, that would be an okay route. That traffic in that area around Waveland, Mississippi was still moving smoothly. Now, we did get reports earlier that I-10 eastbound around the Twin Spans, there was a little slow traffic getting on that area. You may experience that. You may experience, slow traffic in patches throughout your commute, actually throughout your evacuation. However, police have opened up the shoulder and using that as a lane. So you now have got three traffic lanes headed towards Slidell on the Twin Spans. We also got reports earlier of heavy traffic at that I-10, I-12, I-59 interchange. That's actually where Contraflow begins. If we could show that map to show motorists, if you're in the New Orleans East area and you want to go towards Mississippi, maybe through to Hattiesburg or Meridian, you're going to go eastbound on I-10, get onto the Twin Spans, you're going to get to this I-10, I-12, I-59 interchange. You cannot go east on I-10. You will not be allowed to do that. Instead, you will be going I-59 northbound. And as I said before, that Contraflow in this area ends at Meridian. If you're looking for some of the lesser used highways you can use on the North Shore, Highway 41 is an option. Also, no tolls are being collected on the Causeway Bridge. Actually, we're going to show the Crescent City connection first. So no tolls are being collected on the bridge. As you can see, smooth traffic. Also reports of smooth traffic on the Huey-P. Long Bridge as well. 2 boats at Chalmette, a car carrier canal, and there are no boats at Jackson-Gretna. 1 boat at Belle Chase and 1 at Point-a-la-Hache. Also, the Causeway Bridge, they're not collecting any tolls here as well. And as you can see, traffic is moving smoothly towards the North Shore. Also, as you can see, traffic coming towards South Shore. I've had questions if they're going to do contraflow. When I spoke to Causeway Police, they said they're not going to be contraflowing the causeway. So you will be able to head both northbound and southbound. As you can see, northbound looks pretty good so far right now. If we could show that shot of contraflow in this area. Again, they're not going to be contraflowing the causeway, but if you go across the causeway, you will head west on I-12 and then up northbound to I-55. Also, if you're going to be between Slidell and Covington and you're headed towards Baton Rouge, you're going to go I-12 west, and then here you're going to be diverted to Highway 190 and then towards Baton Rouge. However, you will not be able to continue along I-12 westbound. Some alternate routes in the Covington area, you've got Highway 25 and 21. Also, between Covington and Hammond, you've got I-12 west, and then you're going to be headed up northbound to I-55. You're not going to be able to continue to I-12.
Some good advice. Well, the story again today is getting out, and from Araby to Kenner. Lee Zurich has been talking to folks who are making that decision. Hi, Lee.
Hello, Karen. Hello, Dennis. And we are here in Kenner at the Loyola I-10 intersection right here. You talked about the Contraflow plan working. You can really see it firsthand right now. You know, cars in this intersection are usually going the opposite way into town, eastbound, and because of Contraflow, they're going westbound right now. And as you can see, it's moving great right now. No problem for cars today, but that's quite different from earlier today. Just after 4 o'clock when Contraflow started, you can see some traffic pretty backed up on I-10 as a lot of New Orleanians, you can tell, decided to leave town to get out of town, and obviously many of them going west. These are shots of going west on I-10, and it was backed up. We're told it was backed up on I-10 for about an hour or so, but really 1 hour after the Contraflow plan went into effect, traffic started easing off, and right now for the past, I'd say 2 or 2.5 hours, it's been pretty smooth out here on I-10. In fact, about 2 hours ago, we were also on Airline Highway, and the pictures you saw from I-10 earlier today with that backed up traffic, it was pretty much the same thing on Airline Highway 2. That Clearview Airline intersection is always a busy one, and it was extra busy today, but after you get past Clearview, it was still backed up, and it continued to be backed up. We're not sure if Airline's still backed up, but we can tell you that I-10 right here is just great right now, and these are some more aerials for you. These are going eastbound, I believe, on I-10 towards Slidell, and it was slow going there for a while too. And as you've heard, things are easing up, and really, if people still are thinking about leaving town, if you don't mind driving at night, now is a pretty good time to leave, because there's not a lot of traffic out here, not a lot of cars on the road right now. In fact, I talked to some officials in Baton Rouge just a while ago too, and they said traffic in Baton Rouge is great. Cars are moving through no problem. They're not having any of the concerns or problems they had during Hurricane Ivan last year. So far, so good in Baton Rouge, and Dennis and Karen, so far so good out here in Kenner as well.
And so, Lee, the worst time was really this afternoon, early afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock, something like that?
Yeah, I would say so. When we were on Airline Highway between 3:30 and 4 o'clock, it was tough there. Ton Trung was out here, and he said it was really packed on the interstate around 4 o'clock. But about an hour after that Contraflow plan went into effect is when we saw things start to ease off. And since then, it's been smooth riding here on the I-10.
All right. Thanks, Lee. We appreciate it.
You bet.
And now we want to go straight to the Weather Center, where John Gum joins us with some new information about Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of information here on the internet as far as the forecast is concerned. One of the things I want to show you is this map that we pulled off the internet, off the government website. This is hurricane heat potential, as we call it. Basically, this is the potential energy available over the Gulf for a hurricane to use to convert to winds, rains, and clouds. And what you're seeing here is an area basically due south of us that has a very high hurricane heat potential. And they're calling for this storm to go from a 3 to a 4. And it's basically due to the track of it expected to go over this area here, this very warm area that you see south of us. So if the storm is forecast it goes over this area, this is why they're a bit concerned that this certainly could ramp up to a Category 4 storm. So I thought this was interesting, and through the course of tonight I'm going to share with you some various things that I'm looking at on the internet. Now there's the satellite imagery, the latest images that we're seeing from this storm continuing to expand out 446 miles away from New Orleans, 24.8 north, 85.9 west. This was the 7 o'clock advisory, and it's moving now to the west-northwest, and you know that's significant because the quicker we can get a turn to the north, the better it's going to be. 7 miles per hour, the movement now, winds of 115 miles per hour. That makes it a Category 3 storm, although we might see an increase in the winds for the next advisory. We've seen the pressure drop off even more, and that's usually a precursor to the winds increasing to 7.88 inches of mercury on the pressure measured by the hurricane hunters. There's another perspective of the storm. Again, a very large storm. It's getting bigger all the time here as it continues to expand out. And we can see the eye feature here coming back into play on the satellite image right about there. And that's the darker area you see there, which is the eye feature that we're seeing tonight. And you can kind of see how the clouds are wrapping up around that eye tonight. And we're starting to see, again, an increase in the deep shower and thunderstorm activity near the center of circulation. Hurricane watches, again, posted from Intracoastal City all the way to the Mississippi-Alabama state line, including metropolitan New Orleans and Lake Pontchartrain, and it's likely that part of this area is going to go to a hurricane warning by 10 o'clock. So in the next couple of hours, I think the Hurricane Center is going to upgrade this to a hurricane warning, probably for metropolitan New Orleans and a large chunk of southeast Louisiana. Now this is the water vapor imagery. This is something I want to show you. You can see these green collars blowing up over Texas into Arkansas, northwest Louisiana. Those are thunderstorms which are developing ahead of that trough of low pressure which is pushing to the south now. And it's this trough that is expected to pick up this storm and draw it to the north, unfortunately. And you know, this trough, it's all about the timing of this trough and when the storm begins to feel the effects of the trough. If this trough is a little stronger, it certainly could steer the storm a little further to the east. If it doesn't pick up the storm in time, it could steer the storm a little further to the west. But we're starting to get very good agreement about where this storm is going to head. Here's the official forecast track from the Hurricane Center again, and they increase the winds to 120 miles per hour early tomorrow morning. That's 1 a.m. 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, 135 mile per hour winds, pretty much due south of the mouth of the river, according to the Hurricane Center tomorrow afternoon. And then early on Monday morning, they take it up to 140 mile per hour winds as a Category 4 storm, basically due south of the city as that trough begins to pick it up and draw it to the north. And they're still bringing the center of this directly over us at this point. But notice, again, there is a margin of error that runs from south central sections of Louisiana out to around the Pensacola area. So there is a margin of error here. There is still a bit of uncertainty in where the final forecast track will take this storm. But generally, as we get within 24 hours, we're going to have a very good idea of where the storm is headed. So any changes to the forecast track should be very small up until about 24 hours out. And then there won't be probably a whole lot of changes to the forecast track at that point. And the storm will continue moving over Mississippi, weakening to a tropical storm as we get into Monday night. Here's the wind field where you see the yellow colors there. Those are the tropical storm force winds. The orange and red colors, the hurricane force winds. And those tropical storm force winds will begin to move up and over the city early on Monday morning. This is 1 a.m. on Monday. Hurricane force winds expected to begin approaching the coast by 1 a.m. Monday. So you've got tonight, you've got a good chunk of tomorrow before conditions begin to go downhill, and then at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, again, the hurricane force winds, according to the Hurricane Center track here, over southeast Louisiana and most of coastal sections of Mississippi, moving north as we get into Monday night. This is one of our models, Precision Cast, that we've got the brand new runs that we've been looking at over the past couple of hours here. This continues to take it off in a west-northwesterly direction the rest of tonight. So this takes us into Sunday morning at 7 a.m. and then you notice more of a turn to the true northwest through 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So tonight the storm will continue moving just north of due west, according to a lot of the computers we're looking at, and then more of a true northwesterly direction tomorrow. And then tomorrow night, more of a northerly direction expected to take shape into early on Monday morning. And this particular model brings the storm inland pretty much right over Terrebonne Parish there and right up over the city. Now, there could be deviations to this track. There could be changes. We hope for a change. Particularly, we're looking for the possibility of a change moving it further to the east. At this point, we just don't know if that's going to happen. We'll have to continue to monitor the data. But late this afternoon, the overwhelming majority of the computer models that we look at are showing a landfall in southeastern Louisiana. There are a few outliers here that show the storm quickly moving off to the north and a few outliers there to the west. But generally, as we look at these computers, we find that as we go with the consensus forecast track of the hurricane models here, that gives us the best reality of what's going to take shape there. So again, no changes right now. We're going to be monitoring the turn here to the north. It is turning a little north of due west right now. We're going to monitor that situation, see if that continues or see if it possibly begins to turn even more to the north. And all of this will influence, of course, the final landfall point in southeastern Louisiana. Back to you, Karen and Dennis.
And John, in one of your first graphics, it looked like Katrina is just enormous, quite frankly. Can you put her in perspective, some other hurricane we might be familiar with, so we get an idea of just how big it is?
Well, right now, it appears to me that the size of this storm is getting close to what the size of Ivan was, if not a little bit bigger as far as the physical size of the storm. It is possible this storm could grow even larger in physical proportion, and that's important because when we're looking at where this is going to make landfall, we tend to concentrate on a center point. We're looking at little lines here with the models. Well, that's where the most intense weather is going to be, close to where the eye makes landfall. However, there's a wide range, a wide area around the hurricane which is going to experience some pretty rough conditions. So hurricane force winds will extend pretty far out away from the storm itself. So even if this storm should fade a little to the east, say moving over toward the Mississippi Gulf Coast, we're still going to see some pretty rough conditions here, perhaps not nearly as bad as it would be if it follows the hurricane center track directly over the city.
Let's check in now in Slidell with Mike Ross, who's been watching traffic over there and looking at conditions. Mike, what can you tell us?
Well, so far, again, the traffic situation remains very, very good here in the Slidell area. Contraflow seems to be working, unlike that horrible evacuation scenario we had during Hurricane Ivan a year ago. Traffic is flowing freely here on the I-10. As you remember last year, it was gridlock out here. A lot of people with very upset tempers. This storm, it's a different situation so far, and that's the good news. The bad news tonight from the North Shore, most of St. Tammany's population is under a mandatory evacuation order. Earlier this evening, the St. Tammany Parish President issued those orders, telling everyone who lives south of the I-12 to evacuate by noon tomorrow. That includes Madisonville, Mandeville, Lacombe, and all of the city of Slidell, any place south of the I-12. Officials here are strongly urging you to pack up, leave tonight if you can, leave first thing in the morning, be out by noon. And a lot of people in the E. Niles neighborhood, that neighborhood right on the edge of Lake Pontchartrain, are heeding that warning and getting ready to move out. Plywood boards and hammers and nails and heavy sandbags, the must-have survival supplies tonight on Eden Isles Drive. The water is already starting to rise here, and so is the concern.
The concerns I have is the water, the flooding, and the tornadoes after the hurricane. It bothers me the most, the tornadoes.
Hoagie Schuster has lived in Eden Isles for years, and he's boarded up his home for many storms. But he has a very bad feeling about Katrina.
I've lived here for over 20 years, and this is really the first time I've been very, very concerned about what the outcome is going to be.
This was the clock that was given to my mother and dad for their wedding in 1930, and it was in
Carol Hobson is evacuating and taking a family heirloom with her. She usually stays for hurricanes, but not this time.
He and I were both talking about that. There's some reason we feel differently about this one. You know, I usually won't go. I like to stay. This one does seem to worry me, and I don't know why. It's maybe just a feeling in the air, looking at things and wondering, you know, will they be here when we come back?
Some people in Eden Isles tonight are enjoying a few last moments of normalcy, knowing that Katrina could change everything. And in addition to the forecast for hurricane force winds over St. Tammany Parish for up to 6 to 7 hours coming up on Monday, the other big concern here on the North Shore is the potential for a huge storm surge. St. Tammany officials say they've been warned by the National Weather Service that the water level in Lake Pontchartrain could rise 14 to 18 feet above normal, not including wave action. I've been on the phone with the mayors of Slidell and Mandeville this evening. They are both very, very concerned about that, both saying that if that forecast comes true, if that storm tide does roll into Lake Pontchartrain, we could see catastrophic flooding, both in the city of Slidell and also in Old Mandeville. And just to give some perspective to that, the mayor of Mandeville told me, if you know where Mandeville City Hall is on the East Approach Road, it's pretty far off the lake. He's expecting water, if we have that 18-foot storm surge, to go past City Hall. They're urging everyone south of the I-12 here on the North Shore to take the evacuation order to heart and to get out. Back to you guys.
All right, very ominous sounding. I'll tell you, it's interesting watching your story, Mike. One of the decisions you have to make is what to take. That woman was taking an heirloom clock, silverware, jewelry, family pictures. It's hard to decide when you look around the house what you can take, because you can't take a lot.
That's right, and that lady, again, that was the clock that was a wedding present to her parents in 1930. We saw her loading some paintings into the trunk of her car. And as the evening has progressed, we've seen more and more people really taking this seriously and getting ready to move out. A lot of people said they're going to, wait tonight, get up in the morning, see the forecast, check the computer models, see where the storm may be headed, and then people will make their decision first thing in the morning. There are some people, though, in Eden Isles who are not going to evacuate. We talked to some of them, and we'll have that report coming up a little bit later this evening.
All right, Mike, thanks.
All right, we also got this information in from the St. Tammany Parish President, Kevin Davis. He says they are also evacuating all low-lying areas, including the Old Landing, Three Rivers, and the Chafuncta River area. And they say if you cannot leave the area, the Red Cross will open shelters noon on Sunday at the following locations. There are two of them: William Pitcher Junior High in Covington and Creekside Elementary in Pearl River, though they say these shelters will be offered only as a shelter of last resort. So you are encouraged to leave town.
All right, and we'll have more of our continuing coverage in just a moment. All right, we have with us on the phone the president of Plaquemines Parish, Benny Roussel. Mr. Roussel, thanks for joining us. What can you tell us about what's happening in Plaquemines this evening?
Well, our evacuation is working quite well. We've sent about 250 people out so far on transportation that we provided. We have some press releases that we're willing to share with you. Point LaHash ferry service ends at 10:30 tonight on the West Bank side. It leaves there at 10:30. There will be no ferry service in Point LaHash tomorrow morning, but the Belle Chase ferry will run until further notice, which will actually depend on the weather. The other announcements that we have are the Plaquemines Parish schools will be closed on Monday, and the Plaquemines Parish courts and non-essential personnel from the parish will not need to report to work on Monday as well. There are also no shelters are open in Plaquemines Parish.
All right, Mr. Roussel, do you have a sense of how many people have evacuated so far?
I would say 50%.
Really?
Are you concerned about the other 50%?
I'm always concerned about them. I'm hoping that they decide to leave in the morning.
I'm wondering, with this kind of a threat, is this typical or not in your mind?
This is a little more serious threat than usual, and I think that most people are heeding it a little bit more than they normally do.
You've weathered a number of storms yourself. Give us a sense of the mood in the parish.
The mood is caution and concern. So they're really taking heed on the storm itself.
What are the special circumstances in Plaquemines that could make it difficult for people to stay here?
Well, Plaquemines is that little peninsula that sticks out into the Gulf. We're surrounded by water, and our back levees, Mississippi River, divides us. And on the east bank, we have the same thing, water on that side. So since we're surrounded by water, we're concerned with tide and storm surge. And
they're talking about the storm surge being, 15 to 18 feet in Lake Pontchartrain, even higher closer to the Gulf. So that's really serious for you folks, huh?
Yes, it is. And if that happens and comes up from the west bank, that will shut the road off. And then those people that didn't leave will be stuck in the area below Myrtle Grove.
Are there any last-minute things you're doing now to try to protect the parish? And if so, can you give us an idea of what sort of things you might be doing to try to shore it up?
Well, we've brought in some extra pumps, and we've installed those. We're waiting to see what the 9:30 conference call brings. But other than that, for the night, we're kind of like waiting to see what the morning brings.
And what is the 9:30 conference call?
It's the statewide conference call with the National Hurricane Center.
Okay.
And so you'd be talking to the National Hurricane Center and the governor at that point, and other.
I guess the governor will probably be on. It'll be the region that we normally have our conference calls with, all the surrounding parishes.
Do you anticipate any other actions by the parish tomorrow as you get ready for the storm?
We will eventually shut the floodgate in Empire. We're going to leave that open. The Empire locks have been closed, and the floodgate is still open to allow those boaters who didn't make it in the shore to come in and secure their boats. We would encourage everyone to at least come in and bring their boats and secure it.
And with regard to that conference call, how would you describe the level of cooperation among the parish leaders around the area?
I was very pleased that this morning on our early conference call, Mayor Nagin and Aaron Broussard, president of Jefferson Parish, was very cooperative, and Kathleen Blanco, the governor, came in, and we're following her plan, and I think everybody's worked real well. So I think it's something that definitely is an improvement from the last storm.
And Mr. Roussel, I mean, as the storm moves in, is there concern that some people could be trapped in lower portions of the parish if they don't get out soon?
Yes, that's a possibility if the tide surge is what we expect. And we're really concerned that they should leave before anything like that happens.
And you said you don't have any shelters in place in Plaquemines Parish. What about for the people who have no means of getting out? What do you do for those folks?
We will deal with that tomorrow, but we're asking them to please, pick up your neighbor and take them out.
So
sentiments echoed across the metro area.
Absolutely. Sure. Check in on people, check in on your neighbor, especially the elderly, I would imagine, Mr. Roussel.
Yes, well, we've already, by midnight tonight, we'll have already secured our special needs patients. We register our special needs annually, and we provide shelter for them, and we're in the process of finishing that up now.
And where are you going to ride out the storm, and is it capable of withstanding a very strong hurricane?
Well, we're going to stay at the EOC at the Bell Chase conference room that we have set up. As a last resort, we will migrate to the top of the water plant. I believe that.
Right.
Mr. Roussel, how does this compare to other threats we've had for Plaquemines Parish, do you think?
I think it's a very serious threat. I know you covered the issue of the drainage pumps down in the Ollie Drainage District,
right.
And we're concerned about that as well. We do have those pumps in advance, and they're ready. That pump is in operation, and it's ready. So we're on top of that situation. But it's a threat that I think a lot of people are fearing.
But I'm wondering, in terms of like Hurricane George in '98 or Ivan and those sorts of threats, does this compare? I mean, is this more serious or about the same in terms of what you are concerned about in Plaquemines Parish?
I think the path of this storm is a bigger threat to us, and it is as strong as the storms that people are relating to Camille and Betsy. Now, whether it comes ashore at that strength or not, I'm not sure. But we have a coastal erosion problem that surrounds us,
right.
And the subsidence issue. We'll test our levees to see if they are built to stand what they're designed to stand.
Yeah. And do you have a lot of people that you would consider diehards, those that are just going to be intent on riding out the storm?
Yes, we do have a certain number of those, and no matter what you do, they will ride it out.
All right, and coastal erosion, of course, is another big problem. These storms always tear away a lot of the coastline, more than the normal just erosion, day-to-day erosion, don't they?
Yes, they do. They tear up the barrier islands, and that's one of our first lines of defense. And we're making some progress now with projects to restore those barrier islands, but every time we have a storm like this that comes in and tears them up, it just sets us back a little.
All right. Benny Roussel, president of Plaquemines Parish, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, now let's go over to Gulfport. Who's standing by?
And Ben Lemoyne.
Ben Lemoyne.
Hey, Ben.
How are you doing?
Hey there, Karen. You know, they're preparing for landfall, as you guys have been saying all night, at about the New Orleans area. But that would put us right on the east side, typically the most dangerous side of a hurricane. Emergency officials are telling us tonight, however, they're very concerned because they aren't seeing people evacuate. They have issued a strong recommendation for people to evacuate this area. They're just not seeing it. They tell us they're not seeing the traffic, and there are still people on the beach tonight. Believe it or not, there are some teens over here having a party right now, and that is very concerning for the emergency officials here. They think the reason is the reason that the people are still here, Hurricanes Ivan and Dennis. Over the past year, these people hunkered down, they got ready, they boarded up, and they never really came here. They hit further east, so these people say that they got ready for nothing, kind of a boy crying wolf thing, but emergency officials are very concerned now. Again, they expect to be on the east side of this thing, and they think it's going to be very dangerous. So they want us to put out the word to everyone who can try to get out. They will have shelters open tomorrow at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but they say that's kind of a last resort. They would rather try to get people out as organized as possible, as early as possible as they can. There is a voluntary evacuation order in place right now. They expect that that could possibly be mandatory by morning. I just got off the phone with the director of the Emergency Operations Center just moments ago. He tells me that they will close down the 10 casinos here in Harrison County by about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then at about 10 o'clock in the morning, they will not even allow workers to go back on those casinos. So a very serious situation here that they think a lot of people are just taking lightly. They want us to reiterate to everyone, try to get out as soon as you can.
It's interesting, Ben, you say people are remembering Ivan and Dennis. I mean, is anyone talking about Camille? Because that was so devastating.
There is a lot of talk about Camille, but again, that was something I guess that kind of affected. What they're concerned about is just recently. Again, I'm talking about the teens who are over here, 17, 18, 19 years old is what they're telling me. They don't really remember that.
Almost like
Ivan
another generation.
Right.
Excuse me?
Almost like another generation or something.
Right, that's exactly right. You know, you have a lot of people who just don't remember the devastating storms. Of course, George did hit here in 1998, but again, that's 7 years ago. So some of these people just aren't thinking back to how devastating some of these hurricanes can be. Again, and obviously in a situation like this, emergency officials have to use us to get the word out. Try to get out of here if you can. They expect this to be a very devastating hurricane. Again, if this hits at the Louisiana-Mississippi border, we're going to be right on the east side here, and that is going to be a very dangerous place for anybody to be here. There's not a lot of protection. They expect 15 to 18-foot storm surges coming right off of the Gulf right here into the city. So could be a very bad scene here come Monday.
And certainly during Camille, they had some deadly hurricane parties, and we heard from Josh McKelvin, who was saying in the French Quarter there are people that, you know, are partying and awaiting this storm. Are you finding people doing the same thing there despite the history of Camille?
You know, I asked these guys and they said it's not a hurricane party. It's actually a group of car enthusiasts who come out here and kind of show off their cars. But I said, guys, there's a hurricane coming. Are you aware of this? Shouldn't you be evacuating? And one of them said, I live up in Hattiesburg. I'm going to leave early in the morning. But again, there's a lot of traffic. We've got Contraflow going. You cannot go, really, you can't go north or west, according to emergency officials I've spoken to. They're actually telling people to go to Florida. They want people to get over as far east as they can. So a lot of people not taking into consideration, according to emergency officials tonight, not taking into consideration the power, the magnitude of what this storm could absolutely do to this part of the city, this part of the state, and they want us to reiterate that. Could be very, very powerful, very devastating.
All right, Ben Lemoyne reporting from Gulfport. Thank you very much.
We are now joined by telephone by Senator Mary Landrieu. Senator, thanks for joining us. President Bush has declared Louisiana into a state of emergency. What can you tell us about what the federal government will do to kind of step in here depending on what Katrina does?
Well, we're very grateful for the president's attention because, you know, this is a very serious storm, and it's unusual, as you all would know, because you follow these storms, for the president to declare in advance a state of emergency. It's just pointing to a very serious situation. Now, we hope for the best. We hope there's no water on any streets in New Orleans or throughout South Louisiana. We hope it will wobble or turn in a different direction. But following the forecast closely, as we have all day, it looks like it's headed directly to us, the New Orleans general area. And so, as you know, our local officials have asked people to evacuate. People should take that very seriously, and our family is in the process of evacuating, and half of our family has already evacuated today.
And Senator, what has your office done to try to prepare Louisiana?
Well, we have access to our website. People can go to our website and get a lot of good information. Of course, I've been on the phone with local officials on conference calls throughout the day, the governor and the local officials. You've seen them on television. We're in our regular routine of preparing for these storms. But what most people can do right now, and what I can do, I think, the best, is to try to say, yes, this is a serious storm. Please follow the direction of your local officials. The mayor of New Orleans has issued instructions, Mayor Nagin, Governor Blanco, Aaron Broussard, Benny Roussel, And these officials have been through these storms. This is nothing to fool around with, and if people can get out, they should.
And certainly, we've talked so much about pre-storm and preparations, and certainly, unless Katrina can do something, in the next 48 hours, she's going to affect a great portion of Southeast Louisiana. What can we expect post-Katrina? Monday afternoon, Monday night, Tuesday morning from FEMA, so that people around here can kind of get a sense of well-being as to what's going to happen post-storm.
Well, as you know, FEMA operates pretty well. They've been to Louisiana many times, and of course we're in good hands with our National Guard. But this storm could be very different than the ones we've had even recently. We remember Betsy many years ago. Not everybody remembers, but there was a tremendous amount of water and a potential loss of life when you've got that much water coming into an area. The wind is troubling and very frightening, but the water is really what causes a lot of damage. People can't be rescued if they're in a place where they can't be reached. So that's why it's important to get to higher ground, to move and to think about your evacuation plan and to move accordingly. I understand the highways are relatively clear now. Perhaps they won't be tomorrow. So people should take this very seriously. It's a very big storm, a powerful storm.
And Senator, what about help that may or may not be being offered from surrounding states?
Well, we will get help. As I said earlier, we've got 3,000 of our National Guard in Iraq. We're proud of the work that they're doing there. General Andrew has assured me that we have all the arms and muscle we need here with the Guardsmen that are still in Louisiana. We've gotten offers from other states should that need arise. The Coast Guard is also there, and all agencies are coordinating very well. But again, we have not had a direct hit of this magnitude, and so people need to be very, very conscious of the way the storm moves and prepared to seek higher ground.
Do you think people have at this juncture? We've gone through George and Ivan, where these storms kind of take this track and then fade gently off to the east. Do you feel, and the people you've talked to and the constituents you've talked to, that people are heeding the seriousness of this?
I would hope so. I've gotten mixed reports today from my staff that's been on conference calls with elected officials throughout the state. Some elected officials have reported that they think their constituents have been taking it seriously. Others have said, I'm looking out and I'm looking out of my window and people are playing baseball still. And so it's mixed. I'm not in a position to be able to tell. All I can say is it's a very serious storm. From all the indications that I've gotten, I've been in touch with the governor's office, with the National Guard. We'll have to see. But again, follow the directions of your local officials. Take precautions and try to get to a safer place, hopefully high and dry.
And Senator, I think a lot of people are weighing the decision tonight, do I stay or do I go? And oftentimes they look to public officials and say, well, what are you doing with your family? And you were saying that your family is picking up and moving out, is that right?
Absolutely. Our family is in the process of evacuating. Half of our family, we have 37 children to get to safe ground.
Wow.
Between the 9 of us, and about half of the family has already left the metropolitan area. I'm in the process of leaving now from our camp on the North Shore, and I'll be headed to Baton Rouge. Now, don't say because I'm going there it's the safest place. It's just those are the arrangements that we've made, and other people have to make their own decisions. The storm could go right to Baton Rouge, but we think that it's safer to get away from the water, and that's the most important thing.
All right, we are joined now by Mayor Ray Nagin. We thank you so much for being here. I understand you just got off the phone with the National Hurricane Center.
I've had 2 interesting phone calls. I thought this was going to be a very quiet night. I was enjoying a meal with my daughter and my wife, and I got a call from the governor basically saying I needed to talk to this guy who's the head guy at the Hurricane Center in Miami. She gave me his number. I called him. He said, Mr. Mayor, I've been in this business 33 years. This is the real deal. If you can issue a mandatory evacuation, I would recommend you do. He said the storm surge on this particular hurricane could reach 20 to 25 feet. He said you do not have a levee system that can handle that. He said this storm is growing in intensity. It's already at 145 miles per hour with wind gusts of 170 miles an hour. He said this is the storm that everybody has feared for New Orleans for many, many years.
You are the mayor. You've just heard that. What do you do?
Well, I'm looking at all our legal options. If I could do it tonight, I mean, I've got some My city attorney is looking at all of our options as far as a mandatory evacuation is concerned. And the two sticking points are the hotels and the hospitals, because she does not believe that we can really pull this off. So we're looking at an option whether we can exempt them. But come first day, first break of light in the morning, you may have the first mandatory evacuation in the city of New Orleans' history.
And just short of that, forget the officialness of it. You're telling residents right now. I mean, by tomorrow morning it's official, but right now.
I'm putting my wife and family on a plane in the morning. I am telling everyone to evacuate if you can.
And we certainly don't want to cause panic, but if I'm hearing you correctly, what you have heard is this is the big one we've been preparing for years, possibly decades.
It is the big one, and all the models that anyone has ever looked at said this storm is headed right on top of New Orleans.
And this is a live picture of the traffic on the I-10, so the traffic is moving freely right now. This would be a great time for people to leave. What about, I have heard the figure 100,000 thrown about before. What about the people who don't have the means to leave?
Well, that's a challenge, but I'm going to be sending out a letter tonight to all the churches in the region and basically asking them to try and adopt a senior citizen or adopt someone who does not have transportation and help them to evacuate. This is very serious in my opinion. I don't want to create panic, but I don't want to ever wake up one day and say I did not do everything in my power to save lives in the event of a catastrophe. And when you have somebody from the Hurricane Center that has 33 years of experience calling and saying I'm afraid for New Orleans, then I as mayor have to do whatever I can to save lives.
What will people expect? I mean, obviously, when the mandatory call comes tomorrow morning, what does that mean for the city? Are police going to be rounding up, going out with the bullhorn, telling them to get out? Or what will that mean tomorrow?
We're going to be doing everything. The police will be involved, the sheriffs. We will try to commandeer RTA buses to get people out, to identify shelters, to use the Amtrak trains, everything that we possibly can do to try and move people out.
I'm thinking back to Georges. They had opened up the Superdome. They had opened up, if I remember correctly, the convention center and the airport. Are those viable options?
But look, the Superdome is a shelter of last resort. But in the worst case scenario where 25 or 20 feet of water comes over the levee systems, the city will have 18 to 20 feet of water in it. It will take us several weeks to pump that out. There will be no electricity in the city, so the Superdome will be a very uncomfortable place, as well as a lot of the hotels that are in this area.
You've also got some pumps. We did some stories prior to the hurricane season last year that are unprotected, meaning you've been building some barriers around these pumping stations, because one of the concerns of the Army Corps of Engineers is that if you don't protect these pumping stations, as this wall of water that we're talking about from Lake Pontchartrain comes into these pumping stations, disables the pumping station, water goes into the city, now you can't get it out.
Yes, but the Corps of Engineers has all sorts of techniques to pump out, and the National Guard has civil engineers that can come in and help us to get those pumps restarted. So I'm not as concerned about that. It's just going to take us some time to get the pumps working again.
And if we can, let's talk again about the levee system here in the city. What are they capable of withstanding with regard to winds, since we're hearing that this may be a Category 5 when it comes ashore, and storm surge?
It depends. Most of the levee systems were designed to accommodate to be about 15 feet high, as I recall. But a lot of them have settled, and they've settled several feet. So let's say they're only 12 feet high in reality, and a storm surge comes that's 20 or 25 feet. That could create some problems.
That's a big concern of some residents we talked to, in that these are the levees that were built post-Betsy. Betsy caused these levees to be built 15, 18 feet. But some people we talked to in Araby say they're more like 13 feet right now. They've settled big time.
When you talk about Betsy, that was in the mid-60s. Now we're in 2005. Those levees have settled, and this storm is a Category 4 or 5, where Betsy was a Category 3 at best.
And we've talked about this all night. Are you concerned that there is an entire generation of New Orleanians who have never lived through an awful storm?
Absolutely. And you know, we've had so many false starts where storms were supposedly coming this way and they turned at the last minute. So I think there's a certain ambivalence out there in the community, and that's why I'm up in you know, the rhetoric tonight. And I hope people will take it seriously, because I am taking what the Weather Service, not the Weather Service, but the Hurricane Center told me very, very seriously.
What will the rest of this night be like from a city standpoint? Will you start working with RTA? Will you start trying to actually round up some physical buses to try to help some of these people?
We're going to go into you know, pretty much an all-out mode to try and figure out exactly what we can and cannot do. Even if we do, the struggle is, even if we do round up the resources and the buses, where do we send people? Yeah. And that's a big challenge, and we're going to have to try and figure out some options.
And let's assume for a moment that we do sustain a terrible hit. Hopefully we won't, but if we do, what are your plans for the day after and those days after?
Well, the day after is going to be an incredible exercise with the governor and the National Guard, you know, and the president. As my understanding, the president has signed a declaration of some sort, a pre-disaster declaration, which he hadn't done in 20 or 30 years. So this storm and the National Weather Service and the Hurricane Center has gotten to the President of the United States, where he's concerned. So this is serious business, and like I said, I don't want to panic people, but I do want you to understand how serious this storm is.
And let's, if we can, take another look at the live picture of the traffic, and it does seem to be moving very well. Your opinion about the Contraflow system and the improvements that were made in the wake of Dennis and Ivan?
I think the Contraflow system is working fine. We did some things that allowed for spacing. The low-lying parishes went at 9 a.m., Jefferson Parish went at noon, and then we went to a voluntary at 4 o'clock. So it allowed for a lot of the traffic to clear out. And then when we went at 4, Contraflow was implemented. So those extra lanes allowed people to get out of the city pretty good. And then, you know, I've heard reports of people driving 70, 80 miles an hour on the interstate getting out of here.
For those people that may hear what you're saying tonight and say, okay, now I am ready to go. Now they're trying to figure out, where can I go? Certainly there aren't many hotels around here. Are you getting calls, or are you making calls to mayors of other cities that might be able to help us out in that respect?
Well, it depends upon where you want to go. I mean, you know, I'm hearing people are going as far away as Little Rock, Arkansas, which is definitely an option. So it's just a matter of how far you want to drive. Another option is to take the train, take an overnight train, rent a sleeper car, and, you know, take a train somewhere to a location away from here. There's lots of ways you can evacuate, but you need to do it.
You can't legally at this juncture call for a mandatory evacuation. It's 10:15 almost at nighttime, but your opportunity one more time to emphasize to residents that likely by dawn tomorrow, New Orleans will be under a mandatory evacuation.
Well, that's my intention. If I can get the legal clearance to do it, that's what I'd like to do in the morning. But the window is closing on us.